Good vibes, family. Good vibes. The Middle Ages and the hidden agenda reset. I go by the name Pushy Push. Definitely drop a like and subscribe and hit that bell notification so that you can receive my videos when I drop them. But let's jump into this one, family. A lot of us at this time is deeply questioning our history, you know, questioning the history books, questioning everything that we've been taught. One of those questionings is Egypt in America? A lot of us believe that that place is here in this country. And I can agree with that. I also feel that Rome is also a part of this country. So, like, America would be East Rome, and then Europe would be West Rome if the compass isn't messed up. I believe that our history books has been rewritten and has placed Rome and Egypt on one side of the world when possibly the two could have been at the same time, like Rome and Egypt existing at the same time and on both sides of the world. So that's what makes this picture right here, this picture interesting right here. It's because you have both in one image. So you have, like, right here, it says the Nashville temporary structure build for the World Fair in 1897. So they're saying that this is an exhibition site, basically a fair for everyone to come and see, these structures right here. But what I believe is that these structures already existed. And the problem is, none of us remember this. Not many of us have family members who got to witness this structure right here if it was an exhibition. So I believe that you have a high elite that has gotten the opportunity because they control our educational system to such extent that they're able to rewrite history. So remove Egypt from America, remove Rome from America, and change every book that would say such a thing right there. So in this video, what I'm going to do is use timelines to show that there quite possibly was a changing of history. And I also want to show the method that was used to change history to such extent that we don't remember anything. Like, even on a lot of YouTubes and TikToks, they show a lot of cities and they express how, they're empty. Well, we want to conquer that right there. So I believe that there is an excuse for that. And I want to show that right there. But just looking at this picture right here, you can see they have a pyramid and they have Roman style buildings. And this is 1897. Now here's the challenge right here. It says at the top, when was the Sphinx cleared of sand? It says not until 1925, when the French archaeologist Emily and her workers spent 11 years clearing the area of sand. The Sphinx and the pyramids around it had sand still covering it in the 1900s. So these are the great wonders of the world. This is, at least underneath my thought, the first time anybody has ever seen, this type of structure to such extent to where you can even uncover it. Now, what makes this odd? If we go back up, it says this is a World Fair, 1897. How do they have an image of the pyramid before the Great Pyramid is dug up. That's troubling right there. It seems like history is a little bit out of place. In the 1900s, 1925, they spent 11 years removing all this sand. How do they have a structure of a pyramid before the Great Pyramid is even dug up? That's a problem right there. And this is the thing that allows me to be open-minded, that you might have had Rome and Egypt at the same time. And it's a victor who is controlling dates, and definitely can say that Egypt existed 4,000 years ago and control the dates of Roman time also. But I'm saying quite possibly they existed at the same time. If we look again, how do they build a pyramid and show it as an exhibition before the Great Pyramids are even saw by the public? Like at this moment right here, this is not even a tourist site. How is it a tourist site at that time right there? If we go deeper, you know, if you look at it, there's a very tall man right there in the middle. And I'm open-minded to that being Photoshop right there. But if you just look even to the left side of the Sphinx, you can see the sand all the way up on the pyramid. So I'm trying to understand, if you're just now discovering this, if you're just now learning that it has the edges the way that it do, meaning like you had to remove all the sand in order to understand that it has, you know, a sharp mathematical uh, uh, layout, a structure to it. Again, how do they have this pyramid built before the great pyramids are dug up? It's quite possible that these pyramids have been here. It's quite possible that this Roman structure in the back has been here. And you have someone literally rewriting history through the books that we read when we go to school, because this is where we get our imagination from, that Egypt is in, you know, the Middle East over there. And quite possibly, you know, both sides might have shared a pyramid. Both sides might have shared Roman structures versus everything being on one side of the world. So I believe that they remove that knowledge from here. If we go a little further, because as I go back, I started to wonder, like, well, if it's possible to have Egypt and Rome at the same time, what does the world look like, you know, say, as far as the 1300s? So this is where I am literally drawing my historical line right here, is the 1300s. So here is the 1500s right here, 1539. In the 1500s, they had star fort cities. So these are cities that are built out of mathematical equation. I'm trying to understand, you know, is it possible that we had star fort cities, Rome and Egypt all at the same time? But somewhere in history that has been blotted out. And again, we don't have no control over this. Like, you know, after the 1900s, all the books were rewritten. And this is just a great wonder right here. Could you have Rome, Egypt, and Starfort like buildings all at the same time? Because this is the 1500s. This is the reason why I showed the last picture where, you know, you got them digging up the Sphinx and the pyramids in 1920. Well, how can you show me a pyramid in the 1800s when you haven't dug up the great ones? That makes me wonder about how things look as you go back in time. It's like as if all the great buildings literally existed before the 1700s. And then after the 1700s, it seems like they start to take everything down and remove it away. So, this next piece is, to me, the reason for why we do not remember um, any of our past. If we're looking at any of the old pictures and we're wondering, how does these cities get empty, and you see them so massively and they're in our time period, but clearly those who are builders and the masons at our time do not build in that way anymore. So I had to go back to the 13th century in order to truly understand this. And it really comes out to be, um, to me, a breakaway society. Like there is a society of people that decided to reset the entire world. Maybe it had become too expensive, but they use, to me, plagues in order to cause this reset. So it says right here, the plague was it's like the plague, the Black Death is the 12th century. It says the plague pandemic hit the world in three waves from the 1300s to the 1900s and killed millions of people. So we're going to be looking at the 1300s to the 1900s to understand this right here. Because if there is a pandemic that's killing millions of people, maybe that might explain how the cities that we are seeing in a lot of, pictures that people are exposing online, how they're empty. It says the first wave, called the Black Death in Europe, was from 1347 to 1351. This is when this plague started. I believe that this plague is premeditated, and I'll show you why I believe, because it's timing with everything. But this plague had been going on a lot longer than maybe 5, 6 years that you see on the date. It says at the bottom, it says the second wave was in the 1500s, and a lot of people died there. I believe personally, from this pandemic, like literally, to me, at least 1 billion or more people might have passed. But if we look at this deeper, it says the first wave, the Black Death in Europe, was from 1347 to 1351. Now we're looking at dates. So if we look to the left, it says during the 14th century, the bubonic plague or Black Death killed more than 1/3 of Europe, or 25 million people. So the plague, the Black Death, existed in the 14th century. It says right here that it's from 1347 to 1351. Well, when you really do your homework on this, you come to find out that this pandemic, where millions of people died, has been going on, just by count, at least 150 years. There's 1350 right there. And then it says during the 14th century, the plague killed more than 25 million people. And this is the reason why I said it's quite possibly billions of people. What makes this 150 years? It says at the bottom, the second wave. So the second wave was in the 1500s. So that means right here that you had a plague going on from 1350 all the way through the 1400s into the 1500s, basically ending around about the 1600s. So it seemed like there was a plague. This plague that they have minimized to a couple of years actually had been going on for 250 years. From 1350 to the 1600s, there has been a plague ravaging America and Europe both at the same time. But this isn't written in the history books. Like literally, you have to connect these two together right here. Like it's literally saying, and if you just stop there, you would think the plague ended in 1351. But doing that research, you learn that the plague never ended. And what makes this so interesting, and reason why I said it's premeditated, I believe that our past, you're dealing with people who had a technology that we don't believe we had. You know, like the lights existed in the 14 and the 1500s, even though they'll tell us electricity is something that is made in the 1700s. A lot of our history has been falsified, which brings us down to even this right here. When you look into the Americas, it says that 90% of Americans, basically 90 to 114 million, died during this disease time. So from Europe to America, there's been millions of people. So it said 25 million on the other page, 114 right here. It's definitely over a billion people. Literally, this plague had been going on for 250 years. And I believe that this plague is man-made, meaning that we had the technology even then. Um, they were living in cities. You know, like I said, the electricity existed. It's quite possible they had their own level of technology, and it is not ours at this time. And I believe that this is the beginning of our reset. Like there is a 250-year plague that has hit both sides of our world. It says at the bottom, the initial 50 years after Columbus' arrival devastated the population of the Caribbean and Mesoamerica. So I'm saying there was a plague for 250 years that was destroying all of Europe and destroying America and destroying the Caribbean and destroying all the way up to South America. There is a plague happening. This is the reason to me for why population is so low. But what makes me feel like there's a premeditation, like I can easily say, you know, we had the technology, and if we're building great buildings and pyramids and things of that nature like that, I cannot sit and think that we have not had some level of understanding of chemistry and biology. And I believe that was used as a weapon during the 1300s. And that lasted literally for 250 years. What came out of this? What came out of this after each one of these lands right here received this plague? For 250 years, each one of these places right here was devastated. This is the reason why I feel like it was man-made. Right when the plague is happening, so from the 1300s to the 1400s, you have this plague and it's killing millions of people. Right at this time, 1452, they come out with the Dumb Diverses. And this was permission to seize all lands, to take out all non-believers of Christ. At this time, 1452, the world is in a pandemic. Everybody is sick. Kingdoms is dying at this time right here. This is the reason why, if we go back, I was showing during the 14th century, the bubonic plague or the Black Death killed more than a third of Europe. And I'm showing right here in the 1300s that this is to me when it started, and it's like literally existing. So when we get right here to the papal bulls, this is being written at a time when the world is weak. It is unable to fight. And there is a body of people who has now chosen to take the opportunity while the world is weak, while kingdoms is falling, because there's a pandemic on all ends of the world, and come up with a verse that gives them godlike rights to take land by any means necessary. So this is how, let's say, the English got into power. This is how they got into power. There was a plague, and out of that plague, they created their doctrine of discovery, and they created three of them. This doctrine of discovery allowed them to go and conquer three different continents. So Europe itself, Africa, and North and South America. I call them one together. But it allowed them to conquer places where everybody was feeble and sick. This is the reason why I said this is like a premeditated timing right here. If we just read a little bit of the Doctrine of Discovery. So 1452, this is a plague going on. And in order for them to be able to invade, search out, capture, vanquish, subdue all Saracens and pagans whatsoever, in order to be able to do that, it wasn't that their army was bigger. Like, you got to think, like, France is small. You know, the Dutch area is small. You know, these places are all small. If they come together, they're still not larger than everyone else. This is how I know that everybody was sick and they were all dying. And during this time right here, they create a papal bull that allows them to take um, kingdoms, dukedoms, principalities, dominions, possessions. Everybody is sick. This is how the world was reset. You had a plague that lasted 250 years, and in the midst of that, you had particular ruling groups who recognize the world is on its knees, and they conquer every land. So you had millions who already died, and then they come on the land and kill everyone else that's on the lands, all three. And now you have a new body of people, to where the original people who were there had to leave the area due to sickness or probably was unalived. When I look at this even deeper, because I believe that Rome is in America and Rome is in Europe, but I also believe that Rome existed in the 1400s along with this plague and along with this dumb diverses, this doctrine of discovery. So this coin right here, it says Holy Roman Empire. You got to look at that. It says Maria of Austria, and then it says 1528 to 1603. It says the daughter of Charles V and wife since 1548 of Emperor Maximum II. This coin is saying that Rome existed in the 1500s. The plague is happening in the 1500s. If Rome has any of this history, Rome is going through the plague in the 1400s. It's going through the plague in the 1300s. It made me wonder, is this how Rome truly fell? Because I'm showing you coins with Roman dates in the 1500s. Rome was supposed to be already destroyed before the 13th century. And yet I am showing you Rome in the 1500s. This is what a reset looked like. They put a pandemic out. Millions of people die for literally 200 years. They put a papal bull out that allows them to go into the lands that everybody is sick and unalive and take all their possessions. With that right there, when they get hold of your lands, they are rewriting history. So now Roman history is BCE, when you're looking at a coin that is saying Rome was in the 1500s. If we go just a little bit deeper, this right here says Elizabeth of Bohemia, and it's 1596 to 1662 right here. And down below, right there, Elector Palatine, Holy Roman Emperor. She was briefly the Queen of Bohemia. So we're talking about Rome existed in the 1500s, possibly up to the 1600s. What's being erased? Like, this is the reason why I showed that first picture where it showed Egypt and Roman style buildings at the same time. And I'm showing that they didn't remove any dirt off the Grand Sphinx until 1920, right there. So it makes me feel like Rome and Egypt has been misplaced and covered up. Both places could have existed here in America, literally in the 14, 13, 1200s, going all the way back. Like this place could have existed all the way up to the 1600s. And then when 17 hit, everything changed. All the books changed. By the 1800s, there is no recollection because now everything is a structured building that they're doing fairs because they're getting ready to take away all the history. It's quite possible that they put a plague out to take out the Roman Empire during the 13, 14, and 1500s. It's quite possible that's what the dumb diverses was about, taking out Rome, and then the victor rewriting the whole story. To the right there, Archer. It says a young archer, um, by a Dutch painter, 1640. It says a young soldier of the Holy Roman Empire. When I looked at history, you hardly ever see any melanated people associated with Rome. Usually there's a like specific, like, look, when you do the research, it looks like Rome is melanated and it's being wiped out in the 13, 14, 1500s, 1600s. By the 1700s, you don't know that there was ever a black Roman. You don't know if there was ever any type of melanated Roman right there. This might be a grand history rewrite right there. The pyramids might have existed in America. The Roman buildings in a lot of these cities right here might have existed with melanated people in it. And it's quite possibly a plague took out 3 continents. So then when I see like a TikToker or a YouTuber and they say, they're showing all the old cities and they say, where did everybody go? They're not really trying to answer that question. But that question is answerable. You can actually find that answer. Everybody didn't leave, everybody was unalive. 250 years of a plague, and then a dumb diverses took out everyone. The dumb diverses gave them permission to take lands that was not theirs. This is so wild right here because I believe that Rome and Egypt existed together before the 17th century. And I believe that that history has been erased. They tell us that it's a world fair. Quite possibly, it's not a world fair. It is uh, showing the last of this before they take it down. And again, who got family members who was there in 1897 right there. So it's very interesting. But I don't understand how you can have that World Fair in Nashville with that pyramid before the actual big pyramids are dug up. Like, I expected the big pyramids to be dug up, and then you go around the world letting everybody know with small version models that there is, something of marble out in the world. Well, that pyramid, if we go back, let's just go back. This pyramid is before the three great natural wonders of the world is actually dug up. It's quite possible that we did have some type of cataclysm, but not everything was flooded out. And it's quite possible America had pyramids. It's quite possible America is partially a old Roman Empire. Um, Europe and America still to this day go by Roman law. because Rome is a corporation, and I believe that that incorporated name just simply changed to United States, and then other names like Rome broke up into many states. But to me, that happened after the 1600s. It seems like Rome existed, but it also seems like Rome and possibly the Egypt in America was wiped out. And if it was existing in any other land, it was wiped out. You had a plague going on, and they had papal bulls right here. They had papal bulls, three of them, right during the exact same time, with permission to kill off everyone who at this time is in some type of sickness. That's deep, but that's history right there. I believe that they rewrite a lot. You know, you got to be willing to challenge the history, though. You got to be willing to make an argument. So I can understand, even if there's pushback on my point of view right here, but at least I put it out there, and that allows someone to have even their own argument. But I believe that the reset for us starts in the 1300s, and it took 250 years to break three continents down, and a papal bull to break three continents down in order for them to be the global ruling elite of today. So I think we're underneath new leadership, and I think that they conquered Rome with a disease, even though they would tell us, Rome fell off in 400 and Rome fell off in the 1200s. We don't control those history books. The global elite controls those history books. So we got to go look for ourselves. And that is what I'm doing. So with that one, family, definitely, like I said, I always tell y'all, I definitely appreciate you. Um, I can say this, my page has definitely been under a bit of challenge. I'm short of saying shadow banned, but I know I've been getting a lot of people that has been asking about the notifications or the French, like wanting the translation to be changed. And I've set that. And I realized that the French language is grayed out. Like they're not giving me the ability to translate into French right there. So I don't know if that is YouTube's, glitching, or is that the signs of shadow banning, blocking me because they don't want me on you to make a connection. Because all we're doing is talking. All I'm doing is talking. But they don't want, minds to start connecting, especially from overseas. So, you know, I appreciate you watching, even if it's hard to understand what I'm saying. I appreciate, and I appreciate all of you at watch also. So until the next time, I'm gonna try to figure this out, but I thank you always.